Bum, bum, ba bum, 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 ba bum. Bum, ba bum, 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 bum. Hello. This video I just thought I'd go off on a little bit of a I don't know what you call it, just a thing, I suppose. Someone suggested I should do a video of conversions because I like doing them, and recently I've done quite a few for me Night Stalker's Army for Kings of War that I've been doing. So I thought I'd do a video. I might do a few, depends on what I think of. So what is converting? It's basically changing one thing into something else, or swapping one thing for another thing, essentially. The most basic sort of conversion you can get in is take the old Space Marine bike models that just had their hands on the handlebars sort of thing, swapping one hand out for a flamer. I'm not talking about the old models that had metal flamer arms and metal plasma gun arms. I'm talking about swapping just one of the plastic arms out for plastic flamer arm, that sort of thing, to the more extravagant things where you could have multiple parts from multiple models used as other things. For instance, doors from Mantic Scenery, Games Workshop, Valkyrie gunship wing, Blood Bowl goblins. What else did it have? Some other bits from Mantic's Scenery and the Valkyrie gunship, and a load of other models to make a flying goblin pirate ship. Main thing you need is some good tools to work with. Cutters are essential. The cheaper the cutters, the easier they go blunt, the quicker they'll go blunt, or the easier they'll break. Games Workshop do cutters which are really sharp but really expensive, and really are a bit big, but if you can use them well enough, they're not bad. They did used to do small ones, which I kind of like what some cutting cutters are, like the little ply cutter things. They used to have rubbery red handles. I think I got mine in 2009, or it might have been 2008, one of them years, and I've still got them. They still work. Obviously not as sharp as they used to be, but they cut really well. They haven't broke once. If you can get some really good cutters, you need good cutters for this, for chopping models to bits and repositioning things and whatnot. Having blunt cutters ain't a good idea, or cheap ones, should I say. Another thing is have a good knife. Now, if you're watching this and you are either really young, or you've got kids that are fairly young, help them out. Really, they are gonna hurt themselves. And also, I'm leading on to, you need a sharp knife. Cheapo knives work a bit, but them really thin ones where you can slide the blade up and down, not good. One of the best ones, as far as I know, the ones like the Stanley knives, that sort of thing. They can be annoying in the fact that the blades can break, but if you're using them to lever models up and down, they're gonna break, as I found out years ago. You just use them to cut bits away from models, or maybe cut into models if you haven't got a junior hacksaw, which I'll come onto in a minute. Just keeps cutting down onto the plastic or metal or whatnot. Knives work better on plastic, or definitely on resin. Knives work probably a little too well on resin. They probably cut too quickly. You want to really go slow. Another rule of thumb is, and this is the best way to remember it, cut towards your chum, not towards your thumb. Cut away from yourself. To a lot of people this might seem obvious, and you might already know it, but to some people you might not know it, unless it's in a really extreme scenario where there's no other choice. It's best to cut away from yourself, well, with anything, but when trying to cut bits of models and make them look a bit different and whatnot, cut away from yourself unless you really need to, because the amount of injuries I've got, and I'm sure other people have got in the past when doing anything with knives, can be an issue. You don't want to go down to A&E, or if you're in America, the emergency room, as they call it, to find out just because you weren't looking what you were doing, or you weren't looking what your kids were doing. You obviously want a good craft board or some thick thing to put your models on. Also some newspaper, put some of that down, or something similar. I'd say something similar, because if you get glue onto the newspaper and you accidentally get your model on, the newspaper will probably lift up, and anything else around you working on or painting on that's in the same place might tip off the table and break off. Another thing that, as far as I'm concerned, is an absolute imperative is a junior hacksaw. You also want to make sure you've got a good blade and put it in the right way round. I'll go off on a little bit of a tangent. What you do to put the blades into junior hacksaws is you bend the top of them in a bit, put the blade in, and then release it. The two ends of the blade have got pins on them that'll hold in, and the junior hacksaw blade has got a little bit of a give in it, where you just bend it in a bit, put the blade in, and then release it. When you get them, you'll see what I mean. Again, if you've got young kids, or you are a young kid watching, get someone who's older to help you, or if you've got kids, you do it for them. Junior hacksaws don't really work well with metal. They work pretty well on plastic. It depends how dense the material is, like with a knife. If the material's really dense, maybe use a knife if it's sharp enough, or hacksaw blade, a junior hacksaw if you've got the time, because it can really be a bit of a go. And maybe a pair of thin pliers, maybe to bend things around. Maybe it's not necessary. You might also want, and again, if you've got kids or young kids watching, get someone who's older or knows what they're doing, a cup of boiling hot water. The reason for this being, if you've got plastic or resin, I don't know if it works on all resin, but I think it works on resin. Comment below if it does. The water, dunk the model in water up to the point where you want to reposition it, and it will be soft enough so you can bend it. Then, as quick as possible, put it under cold water, or make it as cold as possible. That way it will keep in that position. Alternatively to that, what you can do is cut the model at the piece you want to bend it, then get some green stuff or modelling putty, that sort of thing, fill in the gap while gluing the model at the bent position. It's probably the easier way at times, but if you're running out of green stuff or modelling putty, the other way with the hot water kind of works better in a way. It doesn't work with metal, it just works with plastic. That's also good for putting models when they bend, like some mantic stuff and whatnot that can be bent out of shape. It's good for repositioning that. With the resin, clean it with water and a bit of soapy water and whatnot. Just clean it out a bit to get the film off. That goes without saying. And that's pretty much all the preparation stuff you may need. Oh yeah, modelling putty. One extreme method you can use to fill in the gaps is super glue activator. Spray it on, put a bit of super glue to fill in the gap, then immediately carefully spray the super glue and then blow it a smidge. It's not ideal, and if it's a really big gap, do not do it because of the fumes from the glue, or do it in a really ventilated space. Yes, I've learned from experience, why you ask. So yeah, that's kind of my suggestions from what to do to get ready, from cutting, slicing, shredding, tearing, whatever. Super glue works best. A lot of people use Gorilla Glue. I don't, because you are still waiting around to hold the model. What I use is Mitre Glue. It's not ideal because the stuff I get it from Screwfix. It's not ideal because the bottles are too big, and this is more on me. After a while, a fair while, mind, but a while, we're talking weeks, months, that sort of time, I can't get any glue at the bottle because it's stuck, it's solidified in the lid, and because of how the glue is, it's a little bit thicker than most super glues, but that's why it's so effective. Another way to help with the super glue, the way to help super glue dry a bit faster, is to either spray it with some water or use some super glue activator like the Mitre Glue activator. That's why I use the super glue and the Mitre Glue combo from Screwfix. There are pros and cons to both methods. The pro to the water method is it's safe and clean. There's no spray, so if you're asthmatic or you've got animals or you haven't got a well ventilated space, that can be a problem. But if you use too much, you might get this kind of like a white residue. That might mean you're using a bit too much water or a bit too much glue. The downside of using the super glue and the activator is, like I've said, not a well ventilated space. If you or your animals are asthmatic or anything like that, that can be a problem. So when coming to convert stuff, the main thing you want to do is think about what you want to convert and what you want it to look like. If you have a fair few bits in a bits box, which is spare model parts or broken model bits that you haven't used for ages or you can't use because it's way too broke, usually every model hobby person's got some sort of box of various sizes with different bits in. You can say, this bit could be used for this, or this thing could be used for that. Like for instance, you've got a sword or bits of weapons that you can stick together to make some uber weapon for a model, that sort of thing. Or say a horse and you've got a person's body and the arms and whatnot, and you want to make some sort of centaur character, that sort of thing. Creating some sort of uber mega fantastical upgrades for a monster or a vehicle, you know, whatever. Does it fit what you want to put it in? For instance, when Beast War was talking about was doing the Necron Codex review for 5th edition, I can't remember when that was, they were talking about metal gods and they said, they've got Rob Halford. So I was thinking, the Necron rock band, because at the time there were things called cryptex where they could take things that were essentially musical instruments. So I've got them on the shelf here. So what this is made from, it's made from a Necron Warrior, Lich Guard or Praetorian Guard weapon sprue, and well, model sprue. Game Workshop model sprues for the fretboard. Green middle bit is from the Gore Flayer sprue that's clear green. The cape is green stuff. Hawk is, I think, from a it's either a Space Wolf axe or a Space Marine power sword. I'm not sure which. We go, how do I want this to be? Right, I want a guitar. What bits look like a guitar? And so you start cutting and you start shaping. You can't go, this bit works, this bit doesn't. If you've got some sort of idea of what you want to make, you're halfway there. All you need to do is look in your box. If you know the basic model outline, like the body and the feet, stick them together, because most of that will not, chances are, will not change. They might do, but they probably won't, because the centre mass of the model will just be the centre mass. Everything else you're working around it, like the arms, the head, the back, any weapons they've got, if you want to do it humanoid. If you're doing it four-legged, then that's slightly different matter. What do you want the body to look like? Have you got anything that works? Obviously you might have to buy a bit, but that can be expensive. It's better to see if you can ask someone if they've got any spare bits. Another thing you want to consider is this too much? Because you can make it look as amazing, put all the bells and whistles literally on the model, but in the end, if it looks too overboard with stuff, then it's probably going to look rubbish. Sometimes the best saying is keep it simple, stupid, because sometimes keeping it simple does work. I'll give you another example. What I've basically done is a clear flying base, I think they're called, I can't remember, and a Space Wolf Thunderwolf cavalry shield. Stuck them together to be a storm shield, and because of the effect of the base, I think what I did was rubbed it down slightly with glue. I think only slight amount, and to get this crackly effect, which I think works really well. This thing, don't know what I'm going to use it for, but it looks awesome. I think so anyway. I think this bit's Ralpatha and the tentacles are Ralpatha. These are flying bases. This is kind of an example of trying to go overboard, which if you can tell on the tentacles, there's a little bit of a green hue. It's a greenish turquoisey hue on the tentacles and on the shields, which are meant to be like portals. That's because I was experimenting. I should have left it because it still looks alright, but it slightly ruined it somewhat. It's kind of a case of you should have kept it as what it was. So yeah, you can make it as easy as you want to be. And is it going to fit into my army is another thing you might want to think about. Because, for instance, my Night Stalker's army, I have to think, this is going to work in my army because this has happened to the model. And sometimes you might want to, if you're putting the pictures online and whatnot, explain how the model would fit. Your opponent don't know what it is. You as hell won't know what it is. If you can explain what it is and how it would work, you might understand it a bit better yourself. I've got these burning skeletons from Fireteam Zero, which I'm using for my doppelgangers. It makes sense to me because the flaminess just looks like it's a body just turning into something else. That's how I can explain it to myself how it works. Explaining to yourself or someone else how it works, you'll at least know I can make it be like this, or I can make it be like that. And you can remember this is how it works. Sometimes going overboard isn't a bad idea. There's usually a good reason why you go overboard with it. For instance, you want to put a load of weapons on because you're playing 40k orcs. That's kind of one of the things. I mean, look at a lot of Space Marine vehicles that Games Workshop are making nowadays. They are really good conversions for orcs. They're really good for 40k orc players. Can't fault that. Yeah, I'm not sure where I was going with this, but I hope it's helping in some direction what to do with conversions. I might do a few more videos showing off different conversions I've done, or conversions I'm in the process of doing, and ones that are being painted. We'll see. But that's it. Comment below what you think of the video, and if you like me ramblings. Goodbye for now.